Awesome, awesome, awesome. Welcome, lab coats. Today I'm actually nervous, believe it or not, which is super rare because I don't normally get nervous. But I think I'm in the hot seat today, and I brought on someone who has really also shared the same passion that I've been able to see grow his business incredibly. Markian Sich, is that how you say your name?
Sich, yeah. It's like the Lilo and Stitch without the T.
There you go. And he's with Active Duty Passive Income. And Military Home Source here in Alaska has really been birthed on the foundations of empowering veterans to build wealth through real estate. And so being that we had such a synchronized mission and voice, really wanted us to come on here and tag team on this topic of military real estate investing. And, investing in general, wealth building, of course, that sounds like a great idea. And I wanted to just share a little bit about why I ended up turning my business into a military specific investment wealth building focus and an education based focus. When I got my real estate license in 2014, found out I was pregnant. My first year in real estate, I also birthed a child. It was January 2014, and by September I had a newborn. It was great. But in 3 months that I sold real estate, I ended up closing about 30 homes. And I really came underneath an amazing mortgage broker who was investments focused. And because I came out into real estate from being a full-time intelligence analyst in the military, and I couldn't take a sales approach. I couldn't come in and start like cold calling and like trying to sell myself, because in the military, as an intel officer, when you give wrong information, people die. And so, when I came into real estate, I couldn't just be misinformed or really not feel like I was giving full value. So I came into real estate really actually struggling because I couldn't get the sales thing going. But when I really started focusing on investing and educating people on investing, that's where my passion took off. But the crazy thing is that right about 18 months in, I was tired. 30 deals in 18 months and having a newborn, being pregnant that whole time. It really, and I have 3 children, so it wasn't just a newborn. It really wore me down, and I was almost like, I don't know if real estate's for me. And I actually went to a mastermind all the way in BC. I had some amazing mentors. And this mastermind was with Mike Brody, Mark Weiss, Bowman Kitty, and I don't even think Bo realizes how much they did in my life, but they were a tag on to this panel that was on wealth building. And so they all came and presented their business strategies and everything that they had going on. And when at the end, when they were asked, what would you have done differently if you would have known what you know today 20 years ago? And each one of them, even having their complicated business strategies, owning development companies, restaurants, I thought they were going to give me some golden nugget of like tax advantage that they would have wished they did in the beginning or something crazy. And each one of them said, I would buy more real estate. And Mike Brody just said, I'd buy more real estate, because their portfolios were pretty short in comparison to the expansiveness of their business. And I was pretty stunned when I heard the simplicity of that answer. And then he proceeded to say, there is no other vehicle on the face of this planet that and beings than U.S. real estate. And my response to that was, well, excuse me, but there's no other person in the United States that deserves to build wealth through U.S. real estate than those that lay their lives down for it. And I grew such a passion to come home and to bring that message to my fellow service members and my military families. You know, Anchorage, we have a really cool opportunity for investing. And so that's where I really took off with refueling my passion for sharing with service members. And it comes from this specific personal story, because as an intel analyst in a rescue squadron, I am actually like the front line that receives the 9-line medic when somebody is blown up or shot, or, you know, we have to get the helos up in 4 minutes to be able to respond to an injured troop. And so my time in deployment and my time in service, I got to see like the cost of our freedom, right? I got to see my brothers come home injured. And what you realize is that unless we teach them investment strategies, they're going to go home to depend on, you know, the VA and medical benefits and really not be able to build a life for themselves if they're significant. One of my very close friends, who was also an intel analyst, you know, I'm in the Air Force, right? We're a desk job. But what ended up happening is he was put on a platoon, he was put on a FOB, and he had taken a rocket into his ear, and he actually helped me through intel school significantly. For him, I wouldn't have been an intel officer today. And he came home a quadriplegic 3 months after I deployed, you know, after I came. And it wasn't fair, you know. He was one of those, man, anybody but him. He was an amazing intel analyst. And him and his life struggle as he put his life back together when he came home. And his wife ended up. And the crazy thing is that if we're not teaching veterans how to build sustainable wealth and passive income, you don't know what cards are going to be dealt to you when you're in a high military, you know, environment. And even if you're not an infantryman, if you're not a Marine, you know, you don't know what 20 years in the military will do to you, that by the time you're 14 years in, that your back is broken from jumping, or you're really, you know, it's life. And so it's beautiful to choose to be in the military versus having to be in the military. And the truth is that most military families come from the lowest socioeconomic communities in our. That's where the recruiters go. And, you know, a lot of us are first generation college graduates. We don't come from family lines that maybe have a lot of, you know, wealth building education. And so because of that, the beauty of the VA loan and the opportunities that militaries have to learn how to build wealth through real estate is so valuable. It is life-changing. It is generation-changing. So, you know, for me, this message of wealth building and investment strategies for veterans is the crux of everything that we do. Because, and I'll tell you, this message is something I have on every buyer's consultation. I personally feel that if I do not have this investments conversation with every service member that I have the opportunity to touch, I'm cheating them for an opportunity that they could have otherwise taken. And so I'm super passionate about this topic. You know, when it comes to, and what I'll just share before I kind of share with you the prize and this golden thing that Markian has built, and it's so impressive, because what I will say is Markian is still active duty. Like, he's still serving full time. I'm in the military, but I'm in the Guards. So I report once a month to my military training. He serves every day. He was in the middle of a PCS. He's sitting there in uniform. Like, I'm just so grateful that you're even on. And I'll tell you, brother, like, oh my God, the fact that you've built such an amazing platform while still serving full time in the military is mind blowing, because that to me just shows such true character of a leader, because you have to have good team building skills in order to do what you've done and where you're taking the trajectory of your organization. So I just kudos to you, and I'm super grateful.
I think, sorry. Yeah.
No, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I appreciate everything you just said. That's very, very kind. And I also appreciate your passion for this topic because it resonates with me and my whole team. And I will say that when you're talking about building what we've built, it's truly, truly a team effort. And I think me and you discussed it yesterday, how, yes, I am active duty full time, but that kind of serendipitously forced me into a position where I focused on the team so much. I would not be able to do anything if it wasn't for them. And I think a lot of them are watching this right now, actually, and they know how integral every single member is and how we all work together. And we've had some awesome times, some hard times, but we're learning every day. And so thank you for bringing me on. This is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the more that we can share this message, and what I will say, is for all of the civilian realtors that work with military communities, this particular thing is really where the life-changing happens for a service member, because it can bind a home for a military person can either be a stumbling block or a stepping stone. And, what happens when you sell the wrong thing to a service member, you end up with a service member who might potentially be relocated, who ends up underwater home, who cannot afford 2 mortgages, who ends up with a single family income, who then ends up deployed. And if there's anything that creates a broken family, it's distance and financial hardship. So selling a veteran the wrong thing can really affect not just their lives, but the life of their children. So the weight of working with military is so intricate that, just this mindfulness of preparing them for investments or the long game is really, really important. And so what I will say before I pass the baton here is the one thing to keep in mind for a veteran, a house, is to prepare them for your owner-occupied options, to buy multiple homes. Because if you just sell them one property, they're going to get stuck, and it can be very detrimental to them. I have the opportunity to teaching them diversified liability through multifamily properties. And so that's something that I teach here in Anchorage, is the multifamily. Usually my buyers that go multifamily will buy 2 to 3 properties in the first 3 years, and annually they will earn about $30,000 to $40,000 a year that they get to pocket of both their tax-free basic housing allowance entitlement that they get to put in their savings. And so this is not just selling them a home, this is financial literacy and investments education. And so it's super empowering. And in our circles, Markian and his team, Active Duty Passive Income, has done such a phenomenal job of building the framework of the education for that. So I wanted to highlight you guys today. And Mark, a little bit about your education platform and what you guys, what your foundation is and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of jokingly, when you were talking about how important finances are to the stability of a family, and especially in the military, and kind of jokingly, I sometimes say that, because I don't have any statistics to back this up, but half of the Marines that have any problems, oftentimes half of the time, I would say, it's because of finances, and then the other half is because of relationship problems. But it just so happens that half of those relationship problems are typically because of finances too. So I'm like, really, 3/4 of the service members I work with sometimes that have problems, it's typically because of finances. And so I think it's very important. I think you can be a better service member if you know how to manage wealth, how to manage your finances, how to invest in real estate. So it truly does affect a lot of service members. So that's absolutely true. So when they're building a future,
they're actually building a future, and they feel like, yes, this is a military job, and I'm building a future for whatever I want to create in my life. They're on a fixed income, right? So when they're creating a future, it does help them keep, those moments of being discouraged. If they're succeeding in other areas of their life, is incredibly empowering as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think it's important to have an identity and a passion outside of the military too, because it'll make you a well-rounded person. It'll make you understand other things outside of the, the tunnel vision that you're in, and you're supposed to be really good at your job. And that's absolutely, as military members, we need to keep that as the primary professional focus, but having an outside identity also helps you balance. And so a lot of times we know veterans come back from war, whenever they do decide to take off the uniform, they kind of get lost. And having a passion that they're building on the side constantly in tandem with what their, day to day is phenomenal. And that is
because they don't have to do a job. Yeah.
Right. So especially if you can if that can help you transition smoothly, right? So that it's wonderful. So I stumbled into this the typical way: rich dad, poor dad. I had an entrepreneurial bug when I was in flight school, and I read the book, and then I read 4 Hour Work Week, and I was just like, okay, life equals changed. I need to do something. So I made a bunch of mistakes, got my parents involved, and I was like, whoa, I don't want other service members to make this mistake, but I can't shut my mouth up. I want to tell everybody about what I'm learning and how it's changed my life and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to make a website, and then I'm going to make a course. I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to do it. And then lo and behold.
I remember from the beginning, from your Facebook group. I remember from the beginning.
Yeah. It started from very humble beginnings, but what was cool is that I didn't think anybody else was interested in this in the military. I didn't think anybody cared. I thought, that I was going to be an oddball, and out of the woodworks, people started coming out. And, Mike Foster was the first person to join my forces, and he's our podcast host right now. And we've had everybody from Robert Kiyosaki himself and Grant Cardone and Joe Fairless and so many other amazing people on our podcast. And so we came on board. We just, we started building the course, right? And so the idea behind it is kind of twofold. So there's investing in rental properties that are not owner occupied, but then there's the very, very integral and cornerstone type of thing that we teach, and that's owner occupied VA loan, right? Buying your primary residence in a smart way to make it a very good investment property down the road, owning as much of America as possible, right? And so we truly believe that like the first entrepreneurial moment for many veterans and active duty as well is just buying their first primary residence in a smart way as an investment, and understanding all the profit centers and all the things that get layered on like a cake that is so awesome about owning cash flowing real estate, right? And so So we started building this course, and lo and behold, what started happening is it just it started growing, and everybody started getting interested. And then we wrote a book, and it became a bestseller like overnight on Amazon. And then we were just like, and then more and more people started joining, and now our team's like 12 people strong, and we're just it's wild, right? And so again, all this is possible because of the team. And I just kind of, I had the idea initially, everybody's just taking it way above and beyond whatever I expected it to be. And really everything, the cornerstone is education. The cornerstone is buying primary residences and rental properties and owning them for the long haul and earning cash flow off of them. And now what we're finding out is we need, we're like, holy cow, we need to have connections. We need to have amazing agents like yourself that can connect our members to help them buy. Yeah, to help, like, so, like you were saying, when you have a veteran or an active duty member come into Alaska and you want to make sure that they buy a smart property, something that's going to, potentially change their life. And that's not a small feat. It can be an exhilarating and fun thing, but it's also a very serious thing. And having the right agents connect the dots for them, educate them, show them the right property is crucial. And so, it's very important to us to work with, agents like yourself that can help our members when they PCS from duty station to duty station, because the VA loan is, and getting something, you can get up to 4 units, right? And then you could potentially live completely for free, or even cash flow while you're living your own. It's wild. So, we have, sorry, what's that?
Oh, you're freezing a little bit.
Sorry, you broke up a little bit. What was that, Vanessa?
I think we're losing
Sorry.
her. I can hear you. Okay, I think I got you back.
Okay, now I hear you. Okay, there we go. I hear you now.
Okay, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
What was the last thing you said?
No, I was listening to you. I think I was gonna just play on maybe the fourplex thing, but continue what you were saying.
I'm sorry, you broke up again. The 4 points?
The four unit thing. I was gonna tag on what you were saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But go ahead. But keep going with what you're saying.
So I think the amazing thing is that a lot of service members, definitely a lot of people in general, don't know it, right? And can you hear me? You good?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a lag. You're frozen right now. You're broken up, but I can hear your voice. I have your audio.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hey, if you want, I can turn on video, and we can just chat. Here, is that better? Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I was just gonna say that the 4 units really comes as a surprise for a lot of people, because you can still go 0 down and get 4 units, right? And you can rent out 3 of the other units and totally cover your mortgage or cash flow. You can also, we call that like military house hacking with your VA loan, and oftentimes that can be life changing. So that's really, the cornerstone of what everybody starts off with. We call, like the house hackers, the beginners, that'll get their foot in the door. And then you move on to potentially getting out of your comfort zone even more after you.
I lost you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with my phone. Sorry.
No, and what I'll do is I'll take the baton from here, because I exactly what you break down. And stay with me though. Stay with me.
Okay.
Where's your face? Even if you're frozen. Okay. No, just to play on what you're saying, what Markian is saying. So for example, for the civilian realtors, let me give you a little bit of a model so that you can get what we're saying. So the VA loan is a 0 down investment opportunity, right? They can have up to 4 units with it still being a residential real estate product that'll go into an owner-occupied loan. So what I teach veterans is you want your owner-occupied option. And always know what you intend to buy 3 houses down, so that way you can start with the correct property and buy smart. You want to buy in a market that is rentable, and you want the mortgage to be consistent with the demographic of the most amount of people that are living in that community. So not just buy whatever shiny object is appealing to you, but this is not their dream home. They don't need a dream home. They need a home that's going to support them in the future, because dream homes don't fall out of the sky. You'll never get your dream home if you keep trying to settle for a dream home that isn't really a dream home. So when you buy a smart home that is going to be rentable, then you can also prepare for the next property. If they intend to buy more than 1 home in 1 duty station, and now that they've lifted the VA loan limits, there's a lot more flexibility there. In Alaska, we always had $726,000 of our entitlement, so it was pretty substantial. But what veterans have the opportunity to do is, the reason why they have to think about their second and third home is the one that you buy first has to be like the Honda of a house. It can't be the Cadillac, okay? Because you have to justify purchase, and loans, owner-occupied loans, require for you to move up. So for example, my clients that'll come in fourplex, they will then buy a fourplex and then a duplex and then a single family. And so fourplexes, although that liability seems large, it's actually safer for the service member because it diversifies their liability. Instead of having 100% of a liability on one mortgage, they end up having the mortgage divided by four incomes, four families. And so they're rarely ever going to run into having an entire building vacant. Even in the event that they did, the cash flow of the building should have created a reserve account enough to sustain them. So the fourplex and the multifamily model is really the ace card for a service member. It reduces their liability. They're able to gain more cash flow. They can save their entire basic housing allowance if they're in a fourplex. In a triplex model, sometimes, and in a duplex, at least they're only putting in 25% of that mortgage towards the property, but it still shoulders the mortgage and diversifies their liability. So a multifamily is always the safest way to go for a service member. But multifamilies are not in every environment. So then is it not okay to buy? No. Acquiring real estate is really important. You just have to equip them with a financial education to prepare them for their next purchase. So, if they're going to buy a single family home current duty station, then they're going to need 6 months reserves by the time they leave in order to buy their next property. So whether it be using their VA loan again or using their FHA product, and then conventional. But by that time, especially if they put in a multifamily and they save $30,000 in their first year, they already have their down payment for their FHA home, right? So when you teach them how to stack, and guess what, guys, this is not just a military opportunity, this is civilian real estate also, but the opportunity that veterans have is that they get zero down to jump into a multifamily opportunity where they can save their entire basic housing if they're in a multifamily, which is usually, a good $10,000 to $30,000 a year that they get to pocket, and that money is tax free. So they don't even get taxed on that money because it's their housing allowance. So an active duty service member can completely change their life. Guess what? When they have their stay-at-home wife is not stressed or burdened financially because they have this. So when they're able to build a foundation real estate that can really ripple for them and really build, it is incredibly empowering when they have their second and third property. And the trick is, one of the things, because sometimes just like the real estate market ebbs and flows, so does the rental market. And sometimes my clients will $200, underwater a month. Okay. So if you're putting $200 a month, which is $6,000 a year, excuse me, that $2,400 a year, not $6,000. If you're putting $200 a month, which is $2,400 a year, why was I going to say that again? And their principal balance reduction is $1,000 principal balance on average, and they're only putting $2,400 a year into that $6,000. That's still better than a one-on-one return. And what other TSP program is going to give them a dollar return, even when their rental 1 year or during the weak parts of the market, right? So when they hold.
Sorry, can you hear me? Am I breaking up still?
No, go ahead. Yeah, no, talk.
No, yeah. So I wanted to. I think what you're saying is phenomenal. You're absolutely right. Like running the numbers and kind of comparing apples to apples in this situation, but because real estate is so much phenomenally better, I think, than any other investment in America. But I love that you are showing how the returns work. And so one of the things that we like to talk about is that there's literally 6 profit centers within real estate, and the most important one of them being cash flow. And I can go through all of those, and I love talking about it. So let me know if we have time for that. But basically, I got into real estate because of taxes.
We have like 15 to 20 minutes. Go.
Cool. So, all right. So let's go through this. I first got excited about it because of taxes, right? Taxes for me, I was like, I don't know why I was excited about taxes, because in the military, I don't really feel that burden. But when I realized, I read a sentence somewhere where somebody said, real estate is how you can make money through business, but then real estate is how you really save on the taxes and keep that money. And so making money and keeping money it's very important to understand how that 15, 20, 30, 40% that you save on taxes, that is an ROI in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realize is, people joke about like, not getting political at all. I'm just saying, like, when people are talking about Trump didn't pay for taxes, and it's like, honestly, if he paid taxes more than he did, he would have a bad CPA. When you're in real estate and you're doing it right, you really don't have to pay for taxes, right? And so I'm not going to get too far into the weeds, but when you use depreciation, that is a magical thing that happens in America that doesn't happen the same way in other countries. Other countries don't have the same rules for depreciation. What depreciation is, I don't need it. For long stories, your rental property, not owner occupied anymore, right? You moved on to your next property. It's now a rental. You can depreciate it over 27 and a half years. So America considers it, the IRS, right, which is a 6,000 page document, it considers that property going down to a value of 0 over 27 and a half years. So the cash flow you're making off of it, you can depreciate. And then you can either hold on to that forever, or you can do other crazy things and never pay taxes on it, right? So that's just something amazing. So even though it's potentially appreciating, which is the second thing I was going to talk about, America considers it depreciating. Yeah, it's insane, right? So with real estate, everybody's like 2008, yada yada yada, got it. But guess what? When you're doing the IRAs and 401ks and TSBs, you're not thinking about what happened last year. You're thinking long term. Well, same thing with real estate. Think long term. It's going to appreciate on average about 5%, especially if you buy in good markets, right? So appreciation, taxes, principal reduction. That's what you were talking about, right? So that's net worth growth. Literally, when you have like 10 rental properties and a couple $100 to your net worth is added every single month, you're just growing. You're just growing. You can have a net worth ticker. Like, if I know Victoria, she's on our team. She's probably watching this right now. She loves tracking her net worth. Every single property.
Awesome.
She's just, you have a little net worth calculator, and you can just watch your net worth going up because every single property is getting slowly paid off, not by you, but by your renters, right? So you can't beat it, right? And then there's something that people don't talk about as much, and it's inflation. Guess what? The dollar goes down in value about 2% every single year. So guess what? Your mortgage, the principal and interest you're paying, that's actually losing value over 29 to 30 years. That same, sorry, can you hear me? That same number you're paying for your mortgage, the taxes and insurance part, is actually worth 54% of what it was year one. So when people are like looking at the long term, look at how much I'm going to pay in interest. I don't care how much I'm going to pay in interest, because really it's not worth as much as you're making it seem on paper when you're looking at the 30-year loan. And also, as long as I'm making money on top, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about, cash flow, right? When you analyze a rental property, when you talk to a client and you want to give them advice on whether it's a good property to buy, you got to consider what we call PITI, PMMV, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, property management, maintenance, and vacancies, and some reserves. If you can show them that the average rent for that type of property minus all of those expenses still has a sliver on the top, which we call cash flow, that is a good property. And we shoot for 10%. So you have that, right? That cash flow, everything else is just more and more icing. You know what I mean? The appreciation, the tax benefits, the principal reduction, the inflation stuff, like everything is just extra. Like, and here you are. That's making
exactly what I was sharing, that even when it's red, when the property falls red because of the cycle in the market is red, it still wins over other investments. So it's still worth holding,
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to mention is leverage. That's something I forgot to talk about. Is you can, for zero down, so literally with a VA loan is unlimited leverage, or 5% down for some conventional, typically 20% down if it's a rental property. You can leverage into something that is 5 times bigger, right? If you're putting 20% down and you're buying 100% of something and it's making you money, like, that's insane. That, like, what else can let you do those 6 things? So anyway,
right.
And so that's why it's important for us to have good agents like you that can teach those things. And we can like rely on you guys to really, help them in your market, because nobody knows better than you guys in your market, right? On where to find the properties that can cash flow, or maybe at least break even and have some other upside potential, or can do some, renovations, whatever it is, do like a live-in flip. Although again, we at Active Duty Passive Income in particular, we focus on owning as many properties as possible for as long as possible, not necessarily selling them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, the buy and hold. I worked in the 30 deals I did in my first 18 months, 29 of them were buyers. And they were all buyers, multifamily, all that stuff. So, it does end up, weighing with being more buyer heavy, but you're teaching people real estate. And so it's a little bit of a different, focus for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
If people want to learn, because obviously the information that you share is secret to military, although obviously starting with the VA loan is super lucrative, but where can lab coats and everyone that's listening find your information and go to where you're at, and where's that at?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So thank you so much for offering for the connection there. Because again, we do want to connect with everybody possible that wants to align with our mission, wants to help us out. So we have our website, right? activedutypassiveincome.com. We have our Facebook group that's growing. It's just military real estate investing, or it's called, if you Google either military real estate investing or active duty passive income, or you put it in the Facebook search bar, I promise you'll find us. If you want to just get connected and see how you can, work with us, connect at Active Duty Passive Income is a good email for us. And then also something that I think helps agents a lot is when it comes to time saving. Yes, absolutely spend time on your clients and teach them, but you can also give them resources. And we have a lot of free resources. So one of our books, you can get it either on Amazon, or you can download it for free on our website. And it's called Military House Hacking. Military House Hacking. And it kind of explains everything we talked about. And it acts as as an epiphany moment. It's supposed to be like a quick, easy 100-page read that's just like, the light bulb just went off type of thing. You know what I mean? And it will, and from a business standpoint, it's probably going to warm up your clients a lot. You know what I mean? So there you go.
Absolutely. Well, that is so awesome. Thank you so much for giving us your time while you're on your lunch. And I hope your communication plan goes well. We'll have to connect after this for sure. I'm super excited to it's been years and we have never been able to actually.
I know. I'm sorry. It's partially my fault.
No. It's all good. It's crazy juggling it all.
Yeah. And thank you everybody who's been struggling through my, internet here or watching along as my internet struggles. There we go.
It's all good. It's valuable info. So I'm super grateful, and I really look forward to connecting with you guys and your team later. So you have an amazing day. All right.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.